Hello, my name is Lucas, this is Bit of Lit, and it's a Friday Reads kind of day, you know? And I've read 3 books since the last book I read for my weekend wrap-up sort of video for The Plague, and talking about all the Atlantic magazines that I'd missed over the past couple months. This week, I have been catching up on Harper's, because I'm also subscribed to Harper's, and I've never liked it nearly as much as The Atlantic, but it was good to catch up on a lot of the book reviews and the essays in there. There's a lot of really illuminating things, of course, many of them relating to Donald Trump. They feel so outdated because just time marches on, you know. Anyway, I've caught up on a couple months worth of Harper's, about February, March, April, May, June. So now I'm all caught up, and that's been great. But yeah, looking forward to The Atlantic for July. And Harper's, which are going to be full of this month's and the end of May's wild political atmosphere. Anyway, I've read 3 books. I'm looking at my Kindle. The last book I just read, I just finished it right before filming, was The Good Pig by Cy Montgomery, which is about her time with her pig, Christopher Hogwood, who she got when he was just a runt, a true runt, a runt of a runt. He was about 7 pounds, had all kinds of illnesses, and just wasn't fit to live in a way, but yet he kept persevering and surviving, and she ended up with her husband being able to raise him, and he lived with them for 14 years until his passing, and he grew to be a huge pig, and you know, it's just about her time with her pig and her dog and her chickens. And you know, it's kind of a memoir. Sometimes it feels like let me back up. I really like this book because I like Christopher Hogwood. I like animals. I like the pig. It's wonderful to see how she raises this pig to adulthood, and it succeeds, as she says, or as a person later at the end of Christopher Hogwood's life says that he succeeded because he avoided the freezer, avoided being butchered for meat. So in that sense, it's wonderful. The parts about Cy, I'm growing to like her as an author more and more, and it was great to learn how she dealt with raising this pig. But I guess I care a lot less really about the human aspect in terms of these kinds of books. I only care about the animal. Not that I have anything against Cy, but I did find myself like, okay, you're talking about yourself again. I just want to talk about Christopher. I just want to read about Christopher. But, you know, great book if you're into memoirs about animals. I recommend it. Cy Montgomery is a fantastic author. So, yeah, there's that. I also read Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism, which I believe came out last year, and it talks about how we have been sort of programmed by our phones, by social media, and all different kinds of things, video games, what have you, to be addicted to these screens in our lives, and taking steps to how you can take steps to not remove these things from your life, but remove the things that don't benefit you, or only improve your quality of life incrementally, minimally, and to engage with your technology in a way that it will maximize the benefits so that you spend less time on it and you can be more productive with other, you know, hobbies or with work or any other number of things. And he's got a lot of great tips, and he sort of references Thoreau, oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now. Walden, anyway. Henry David Thoreau, right? Yeah, I'm thinking of Jean-Jacques Rousseau right now, and I'm like, he's French. He's not. Anyway, he didn't write Walden. Okay, sorry. Yes. He talks about that and the sort of misconceptions around that idea and applies it to what he's talking about now. And yeah, I mean, he's got a bunch of, again, like I said, he has a bunch of tips for how to sort of detox and then reintroduce the things in your life that you feel that you need to improve your quality of life. Anyway, in terms of technology. So, really interesting. I'm going to take some tips from it. Because, yeah, as I was reading it, when I wasn't reading, I found myself doing a lot of the things he was saying, checking my email constantly, checking social media. Really hard not to, again, with the climate of America. But, you know, because it's just... it's a crazy time. Anyway, and then another book that I started to read, largely in part due to the climate of America. I read Proud Boys and the White Ethnostate by Alexandra Minna Stern, which is about the subsect of the American populace, of the American voting body, that can be identified as a white nationalist, and oftentimes, if not always, are aligned with Donald Trump. They view him as a sort of a virtuous guy for them, and it was kind of disturbing to read that some people think he doesn't go far enough. I'm not gonna get into politics because I'll just get angry. Even though I did read this book, it kind of talks about politics. It was wild to read about how these particular kinds of people, I am showing you the list of books on my Kindle, not what I actually went to in the book. Anyway, these particular kinds of people who are supportive of Trump, which is disturbing, and should be a cause for concern, in my opinion. The way that their tactics to try and introduce people outside of that bubble, by, this idea of metapolitics, where they dress handsomely and clean-shaven and all this other stuff, and they sort of say, no, I'm not in these symbols, for example, of Nazi Germany or the Confederate flag. They push themselves away from that, to disassociate themselves away from it, because they know that those images have bad optics, and people who are reasonable, I would think, who know what those mean, and what those symbols meant and what they were used for, and they push away from them so that they can say, no, we're not like that. We're different. We don't have any association with these bad things. We're actually, in the right state of mind, sort of thing. Kind of hard to talk about, because there are things I want to say, but I don't want to be losing my mind right now. Anyway, one thing that I really want to talk about briefly, this book is illuminating. I recommend it. It's disturbing, highly disturbing. I mean, it talks all about, the bad optics thing, about being clean-shaven, and this alt-right movement of people who are sort of aligned with the alt-right, but they never quite go so far as these extreme people. And Oh man, I totally lost my train of thought. Sorry. Okay, so let me just read a little part of the book that was meant to be comforting. It's right at the end. It is reassuring to learn that the portion of the American population estimated as alt-right is very small. According to researcher George Hawley, who wrote the book Making Sense of the Alt-Right, and has mined survey data to produce some of the only demographic analysis of the alt-right, 6%, or 11 million, of the 200 million whites in America have beliefs that would classify them as white nationalists. I'm sorry? 6%, you say? That does sound small. 11 million people, you say? Is a small portion of 200 million? Yes, true. At the same time, you know, there are issues with that statement that are concerning. 11 million people are identifiable as alt-right. How many people are sympathetic and, you know, have ideas along the same lines but aren't that extreme, I guess? How many people are that? Or how many people are apathetic of the 200 million whites that, you know, that was not actually comforting like it was trying to be. That was disturbing because, while I know that not every person that supports Donald Trump is a racist, you know, I mean, I know people, friends and family that supported and support Donald Trump. Really hard to reconcile with that personally, but I know people that support him. You know, don't get me wrong, I want him to do the right thing. He fails to do so in my opinion, but again, you know, I don't want to talk about politics too much, or, you know, like my park video, that was I had to get something out of my system. I know that not everybody is a racist. These white nationalists are, and there's 11 million of them apparently, based on some demographic analysis, and that means these are the most extreme people who can be identified that way. There's still going to be gradations of people along these lines, and that is concerning. That's all I have to say about that book, The White Ethnostate and Proud Boys. And they also have issues with women too. That was the other thing I wanted to say. It talked a lot about Gamergate, and yeah, it talked about a lot of things, all of them horrifying. Of course, while I was, you know, all three of these books, I have been reading them. I've been trying to stay engaged while reading and not checking Twitter or what have you for the news, which I definitely have been, which is what digital minimalism was trying to tell me I should maybe do less of. It has been, of course, very hard to read these past 2 weeks, week and a half, just because of what's happening in my country, our country, if you're American, all over the world, really, because there's still the virus. That's all I'm going to say, really. Have a good day, everybody. Happy reading, and yeah, goodbye.